Before the internet arrived, life was simpler and memorable. Kids used to play outside just laughing, running, and dancing in a lovely sunny day on the streets. Back then, this was the real meaning of socializing and interacting with others. Growing up in the Philippines made me appreciate my memories on the games we played in the past. Games such as Patintero, Chinese Garter, Luksong Baka, and so much more. Who could ever forget these fun and innocent games?
But knowing that you're all here in my channel, you know something messed up is going to come. Okay? So, let's talk about it. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night if you're about to sleep. Hi, and welcome to another segment of Freaky Filipino Friday with Phil, where I talk about weird and freaky stuff from my home, Philippines. So I've been away from YouTube for quite a while now, and because you know, real life sucks. I have so many stories about urban legends, monsters, and morbidity to tell, but I just don't have the time. You know what's scarier than monsters and morbidity? Adulting. Yep. True story, y'all. True story. Anyway, while I was reminiscing my childhood, I recall the games that I played back in the Philippines. It seemed like yesterday or 20 years or more. Then I just realized the games that I played before were not as innocent as I thought. They were borderline gruesome and morbid. So grab hold onto your panties and let's begin. So let's start off with a very well-known game called Langit Lupa. So how the game works is pretty simple. It's like a game of tag with a twist. So there is this one person who is the it, and you need to tag someone, of course. To avoid getting tagged, you have to run, duh. But there's another way. So this is where the twist comes in. To avoid getting tagged, you can also get off the ground or go somewhere or something higher. For example, if the it is chasing you and you're just trapped in a corner like, oh my god, but you see a chair, you can step over the chair and save from being tagged. But to be fair also for the person who is the it, anyone who is above has a time limit, so you can't stay up for a long time. So imagine everyone's just above like, what the F man, am I playing by myself? So this is why it's called Langit Lupa. Langit for sky and lupa for ground. Well, it sounds pretty normal to me, right? Wrong. So let's talk about the chant before the game starts. Yes, there's a chant like a normal cult would do. So it says here, Langit Lupa, Imperno, Impierno, Saksak Puso, Tulo ang Dugo, Patay Buhay, Alis. So the langit here is heaven and lupa is earth in this context. So if you translate this, this is heaven, earth, hell, stab the heart, blood drips, death, life, away. So adults nowadays, when they hear this, like, oh my god, what's wrong with this kid? But people back then didn't care. They're just gonna say like, okay kids, have fun, just make sure to come home before the sun comes down or else you get stabbed in the heart. Next it's Pulis-Dunggab. So this is a Bisaya game, but I don't know if there's a Tagalog version or many versions around the Philippines with this game. Basically, in translation is police stab. Yes, stab again. What is this obsession with stabbing with these Filipino kids? So how we play is just like hide and seek with a twist again. Yes, we just love our twist. So the it is the police himself and the rest are backstabbing criminals. So the police would close his eyes and count to 10 or million. So after counting, the it would search the area and look for the rest of the players. A very cool advantage of being the it is that you would play as a police. So when you find someone, you have to point the person as if you're holding a gun and then you say bang. But you have to say the name of the person, for example, like Bam Junjun, Bang Kordapya. Well, since you're acting like you're holding a gun, so it doesn't matter if you found someone very far or all the way to the next island. Of course, it's a long distance weapon, which is a very cool advantage to be honest. But it's not a total disadvantage for the other players. No. Since you're all bloodthirsty criminals, you can actually attack the it. To do this, you have to make a fist as if you're holding a knife and say chak, which how a stabbing would sound like chak, chak, Jack noticed. So the game would restart again and the police will stay as a police like an endless time loop. So the only way to clear the game is to find everyone, okay? You have to shoot everyone. And the first person to get shot will be the next it. It's such a fun and interactive game, right? Just like real life. Now let's proceed to the next. Now let's talk about Doktor Wakwak. This is such a neighborhood game or a very barangay game. If you don't know what wakwak is, it's another kind of aswang or manananggal, which are the Filipino vampires that eats different parts of your body. So in this game, it will be the doctor who is a wakwak that eats people. So the doctor would close his eyes and wait for the other players. Meanwhile, the other players would hold hands and make a circle as if you're summoning a devil, normally, but you don't do that, okay? For now. The goal is to tangle yourself by going in and out of the circle while still holding your hands, and to let the doctor fix you and slowly cut you separately from each other. Once everyone is free, the doctor can catch anyone to be the next Dr. Wakwak. Honestly, this is one of my favorite games because you have to be very creative that the doctor will have a hard time solving how to untangle. But this game is a bit biased also because the last person to be cut loose would most likely to be caught. So if you have a crush with someone, you can, you just stay there. Well, it's not as messed up as the other games, but there are still like a chopping action and also cannibalism. The next game is Tumbang Preso. This game has different names such as Tumbang Lata and Batulata in Bisaya. This is one of the most popular games, or not the most popular game ever in the Philippines. Firstly, you have to have at least 4 players and a maximum of 10 players, but it depends on you guys, okay? The mechanics of this game is pretty simple, but there are a lot of rules to this. So I'm just gonna tell you the basics, just the basics. So there is a can you put in the middle of a circle you make, in which the other players must try to hit it. Usually Filipinos use slippers because it's quite handy. It's not just for punishing your kids, but the other players must stay within their line, so you have to make a line far from the circle. So the row of the hit has to guard the can until someone hits the can. Once the can falls off, the guard has to put back the can back to the circle and the other players must retrieve their slippers. After returning the can, it has to catch the players who are not within the line. But there's still more rules to this game actually, but if you want to know more, I'm just gonna place a link on this video and just search it for yourself. It's pretty innocent, right? Again, you're in my channel, so no. So we can just spot it on the game's name itself, Tumbang Preso, which means knock down the prisoner. Makes sense, right? I do believe that this was a representation on how punishment worked in the past. Not just in the Philippines, but around the world. Okay? Like how people punish not just criminals, but also people who were outcast to the society. So the guard acts as a warden or the prison officer who just waits for the prisoner to die. Like, hey, I'm just gonna pick up the dead body, okay? Okay, have a nice weekend. See you next week for another session. Next is Japanese. This is one of my favorite games of all time because it's a full-on team building. So this game is strategic based and teamwork. So you have 2 teams with equal number of players for each. So each team has a base. So when I was in grade school, we usually play in a basketball court because we use the basketball stand as our base. It's also parallel to our enemy's base, so it was perfect. The goal of this game is to capture the enemy's base, but to do that, you have to touch whatever base they use and the game ends. But wait, the players have to defend their own base at the same time. In order to capture the base easier, you have to capture as many players from the opposing team as much as you can. So after you catch one player, the player will go to your home base, and if you capture another one, the next player has to hold hands with the previous player. Then if you capture another player, again he will hold hands to the previous player until they make a very long line from the base. So if this happens to your team, you can still save them actually. So the longer the line, it's easier to reach your captured teammates. So if you tag the most tip player, then they are saved. But it's still tricky though, because you have to protect your base at the same time and not getting captured. It's really fun guys. Well, why is this messed up? It's just a Japanese game, right? It's basically harmless. Well, That is why it's called Japanese, because it mimics the events in World War II when the Japanese tried to take over the Philippines. You can see actually on the game mechanics itself on capturing base. There are tons of representation of this game from the events that occurred in past. Just capturing the base itself is already a big symbol for this. Capturing soldiers, making strategy, and saving your teammates. It's just a surreal representation. I'm not gonna explain all the details from the events in World War II, but you can check it out yourself. It's just a one click away in Google. So those are the Filipino games that were messed up according to my eyes, but I'm pretty sure there's more. But if you do know more, please don't hesitate to write a comment down in the comment box below. And before we end, please do hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to know more weird stuff. And again, stay safe and goodbye.